Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Leo.
And I'm Emma. It's great to have you with us today for a deep dive into something that makes us all a little self-conscious.
Exactly. Now, Emma, let's be real. Have you ever listened to a recording of yourself speaking and realized you say the word or like about 1,000 times?
Oh, absolutely. It's painful, isn't it? You think you sound like a sophisticated professor, and then you hear the recording and you just hear, so yeah. It's a nightmare. It makes you feel like you haven't mastered your own language.
But here's the secret. Native speakers do it too. We just use different words. We call them fillers, or in linguistics, discourse markers. And today, we're going to teach you how to use them properly, so you don't just fill the silence, but you actually sound more natural.
Exactly. Mastering fillers is like learning to drive smoothly. Without them, your English can sound a bit robotic, like you're reading from a list. Fillers give you time to think without losing your turn in the conversation.
And there is actually some fascinating science behind this. We often think people who use fillers are lazy or unintelligent, but research suggests the exact opposite. There was a study out of the University of Texas at Austin back in 2014 that analyzed thousands of audio clips.
Right, I remember reading about that. They found that people who frequently use discourse markers, specifically words like I mean and you know, actually tend to be more conscientious.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? The researchers suggested that these speakers are more thoughtful and aware of their listeners. They use these markers to check in, to bridge gaps, and to make sure everyone is following along. So if you use them, you aren't stupid, you're just socially aware.
That makes me feel a lot better about my own habits. So let's get into the specifics. Today we're focusing on the big three. Basically, literally, and to be honest. These are the heavy hitters of modern English.
Let's start with basically. This is probably the most used filler in the corporate world and in daily life. Leo, how would you define its actual job?
Wait, I'm Emma, but I'll answer that. Its job is to simplify. When you have a long, complicated story and you want to get to the point, you say, basically. For example, well, we had a flat tire, the GPS stopped working, and we ran out of gas. So basically, we're going to be late.
Right, it's like a signal to the listener. Okay, stop listening to the details, here is the main idea. But people use it even when things aren't complicated. Sometimes it's just a way to start a sentence. Basically, I think we should go.
True, but a word of warning, don't overdo it. I once worked with a guy who said basically at the start of every single sentence. After 5 minutes, I wasn't listening to his ideas anymore. I was just counting how many times he said basically.
That's the danger. It becomes a crutch word. If you use it every 10 seconds, it loses its power. Use it when you are actually summarizing something. Like, basically, the movie is a love story set in space. Clear, simple, effective.
Now, let's move to the most controversial one. Literally.
Oh boy, the grammar police hate this one.
They really do. Technically, literally means exactly as stated. If I say my head literally exploded, it means there is blood and brains on the wall.
But that's not how people use it anymore, is it? We use it for emphasis. We use it when something is figurative, but we want it to feel intense. I'm literally starving, or it's literally freezing in here.
I reckon if you're a purist, this drives you crazy. But if you want to sound like a native speaker under the age of 40, you're going to hear this all the time. It's used to show strong emotion.
And actually, Emma, we should defend the modern usage here. A lot of people think this wrong usage is a recent invention by millennials, but that is historically inaccurate.
Is it? I thought it was a recent internet trend.
Not at all. The Oxford English Dictionary cites the first figurative use of literally back in 1769 in a novel called The History of Emily Montagu. And famous authors like Mark Twain, Charles Dickens, and F. Scott Fitzgerald all used literally to mean figuratively in their writing. Twain wrote about a character being literally rolling in wealth, which is physically impossible unless they were swimming in coins like Scrooge McDuck.
That is amazing. So when people complain about it today, they're actually arguing with Mark Twain.
Essentially, yes. The intense hatred for it really only started in the early 1900s, with usage guides by people like Ambrose Bierce. But language evolves. Today, it serves as an intensifier.
I use it when I'm exaggerating. Like, I literally had to wait in line for 3 hours. Maybe it was only 40 minutes, but it felt like 3 hours. It adds drama.
Just be careful in formal situations. If you're in a job interview and you say, I literally died when I saw the news, your boss might think you're a ghost. Save literally for when you're hanging out with friends or telling a dramatic story.
Good advice. Now, let's talk about the third one, to be honest. We mentioned this briefly in our last episode about opinions, but as a filler, it has a very special social function.
It does. It's a softener. English speakers, especially in the UK, don't like to be too direct or rude. If I don't like your new shoes, I won't say those are ugly. I'll say, to be honest, they're not really my style.
It's a shield. It protects the other person's feelings. Linguists call this a face-saving act. You are preparing the listener for something that might be slightly negative or contrary to what they expect.
But here's the funny part. Sometimes we use it when we aren't even being particularly honest about anything controversial. It's just a way to fill the gap. To be honest, I'm quite tired. To be honest, I think I'll stay home. It's a very natural way to start a sentence when you're sharing a personal feeling.
And then there's the advanced version, TBH for texting. But in speech, you can also say, in all honesty, or if I'm being honest. They all do the same thing. They create a sense of intimacy between you and the listener.
So we've got basically for summarizing, literally for drama, and to be honest for sincerity. But Emma, what about the classic fillers, the ones people try to stop saying, like and you know?
Ah, the invisible fillers. Like is the king of them all. So I was walking down the street and I saw this huge dog.
You sound like a teenager from California.
I know, but it's contagious. Even professionals do it. The reason we use like is to show that we are about to give an approximation or we're about to quote someone. He was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm almost there."
That usage is actually called the quotative like. It's extremely useful for storytelling because it allows you to act out the scene. Instead of saying he said and I said over and over, you use he was like and I was like. It makes the story feel more alive, more in the moment.
It also signals gesture. If I say, "The fish was like this big," and I hold my hands apart, like is the bridge between my words and my physical action.
And what about you know? That's a filler that asks for agreement. You're checking if the listener is following you. It's a bit difficult, you know? I've never done this before, you know?
The problem is when people use it as a question at the end of every sentence, you know? It can get a bit annoying, you know?
Okay, Emma, I get it. So how do our listeners use these without sounding like they can't speak English?
The key is the pause. Advanced speakers use fillers to manage the pause. Instead of a silent, awkward gap where people might interrupt you, you say, basically, and that gives you 2 seconds to find the right word.
It's about control. A beginner uses because they are lost. An advanced speaker uses, well, to be honest, because they are choosing their words carefully. It's a subtle difference, but it sounds completely different to a native ear. It's about holding the floor.
Let's try a little role play. Leo, ask me about my weekend. I'll try to use at least 3 of the fillers we talked about today.
All right, so Emma, how was your weekend?
Okay, let's see. Well, basically, I spent the whole weekend cleaning my apartment. It was literally the most boring 2 days of my life. I wanted to go out, but to be honest, I was just too exhausted from work.
Perfect. That sounded 100% natural. If you had said, I cleaned my apartment, it was boring, I was tired, it would have sounded like a primary school essay. The fillers added the human element.
Now your turn, Leo. Tell me about the last meal you cooked.
Oh man, to be honest, I'm a terrible cook. I tried to make a lasagna, but I literally burned the top to a crisp. So basically, we ended up ordering pizza again.
See? It works for everything.
For our listeners out there, here is your homework. Next time you are speaking English, try to replace one with a well or a basically, just one.
And pay attention to the movies or YouTube videos you watch. Listen for how often native speakers use literally or you know. You'll realize that we use them much more than you think.
We've been talking for about 15 minutes now, and basically we've only scratched the surface of English slang and fillers. But to be honest, I think this is enough for one day.
I agree. Your brain needs a break. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to Leo and Emma English. We're here to help you move past the textbook and into the real world.
Leave a comment using one of today's fillers. Tell us something that literally made your day, or tell us what you're basically doing this weekend.
We love reading your stories. Until next time.